Because of recent events, lumilitaw na ang DNR ay isang ahensya na matatawag kong bantay sa lakay, turo-turo style. Bakit po turo-turo style? Nagtuturoan. Kapag kami po ay tumawag sa DNR para mag-usisa, mag-imbestiga tungkol sa mga illegal structures, tungkol sa mga paglapastangan sa ating mga kalikasan, nagtuturoan. Ito pa po ang pinakamasakit at nakaka-insulto. Ito pong DNR Freedom Information Manual. Hindi ko alam kung kailan nilabas ito. Na kung saan ipinagbabawal ang DNR na magbigay ng impormasyon tungkol sa mga nag-a-apply ng ECC at mining. God damn. Is this of national security concern? Kaya bawal sa inyong Freedom of Information Manual, bawal kayo magbigay ng impormasyon tungkol sa mga nag-a-apply ng ECC at mining permit.
Inadequate action by Mount Apo's Protected Area Management Board, even though there is an existing directive from President Bongo Marcos to preserve Mount Apo as advised for inclusion in the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites. He articulated that turuan ang kalakaran pagdating sa ating pangangalaga ng kalikasan, lamenting the culture of passing blame among government entities responsible for environmental protection, including the DNR, Senate Resolution, government units and PAMBs highlighting the lack of accountability and effective action. But the controversy surrounding the aforementioned protected areas may just constitute the tip of the iceberg. We have yet to uncover the full extent of the challenges facing our protected areas. Consider this: the Philippines has a total of 248 protected areas. 114 are formally legislated, 121 are initial components of the NIPA system, and 13 are established through presidential proclamation. It would not be far-fetched to believe that many of our other protected areas also face problems threatening their sustainability. I would tend to agree with that because we have also a protected area in our city of Las Piñas and Parañaque, and we are really being forced to really protect it because of the danger of ISF living in our protected area and the permit to do reclamation along our protected area. This inquiry could be an eye-opener, leading us to take definitive actions in the right direction for the conservation of our protected areas. Taking action now is essential, and this may well start with conducting a thorough survey, inventory, and recording of every structure in all our protected areas, alongside reviewing the documents and instruments that govern them to identify and rectify any inconsistencies with their intended protection. Thank you. So, I would now recognize, after my speech, the opening statement of Senator Binay, Senator Bato de la Rosa, and Senator Tulfo on that order. So we recognize now Senator Binay.
Magandang umaga po, Madam Chair, at sa lahat po ng naririto sa pagdinig ngayon. Nitong nakaraang buwan, lubhang nabahala po tayo sa mga nagsilabasang mga video at post sa social media na mayroong swimming pool at ilang konkretong cottages sa isang resort na itinayo sa pagitan ng Chocolate Hills na idineklara ng UNESCO bilang kauna-unahan at natatanging global geopark sa Pilipinas. Bukod pa rito, kasama din ang Chocolate Hills sa protected areas sa ilalim ng National Integrated Protected Areas System Act. Kaya naman labis ang ating pagkadismaya nang makita natin na may mga istruktura pala na itinayo doon mismo sa Chocolate Hills na maaring makaapekto sa likas na yaman at ganda ng lugar. Kaya agad po tayong nag-file ng Senate Resolution number 967 dahil gusto nating malaman kung bakit pinayagang mag-construct ng mga konkretong istruktura sa Chocolate Hills sa kabila ng pagiging protected area nito. Umaasa po tayo na sa hearing na ito, magkakaroon tayo ng sagot mula sa DNR, PAMB, BEMO, TENRO at LGUs at maipaliwanag nila kung bakit nagkaroon ng construction at nabigyan ng permit ang mga resorts kahit na protected ang status ng Chocolate Hills. Maganda rin na tignan kung ano ba talaga yung ginagawa ng mga LGU para mapangalagaan itong mga protected areas natin at kung aligned harmonize at complementing sa kani-kanilang comprehensive land use plans ang no-build zones, protection zones, at buildable areas susog sa unique physical and geographical character ng isla ng Bohol at in line with the protection of the province's geological heritage. Hindi po natin layon ang magturuan dito, but we want to know where the policy gaps are, the gray areas in laws and ordinances, the failure in coordination and implementation, and why mandates were not faithfully carried out. Bilang mga tagapagpangalaga ng kalikasan, hinihikayat ko po ang lahat na magbigay linaw at paliwanag tungkol sa kani-kanilang mga mandato at responsibilidad. Hanapin kung saan meron na pagkukulang sa mga ordinansa at batas, alamin kung tama ba ang pagkakaintindi sa mga polisiya, bigyang solusyon ang mga tampok at tawag pansing problema, at magkaisa ang lahat na may iisang layunin at paninindigan na protektahan ang ating kalikasan at mga likas na yaman. Our Chocolate Hills are more than just a tourist destination. It is a UNESCO site and a protected area. It deserves to be taken care of because they play a crucial role in our conservation efforts, utilization and management of our natural genetic resources. Being a globally recognized UNESCO Geopark and being at the forefront of efforts to conserve, restore, and heal the environment, the Chocolate Hills provide the template and guide for LGUs on how protecting and conserving natural treasures can translate into meaningful gains for our people and country. Maraming salamat po at magandang araw po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Senator Binay. Before we acknowledge Senator Bato de la Rosa, I just want to acknowledge the virtual presence of Senator Bongo. Thank you very much. We now hear from Senator Bato de la Rosa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Davao and Bohol are for the longest time, popularly known as Mount Apo and Chocolate Hills, which are often reflected in the pages of our textbooks. During our plenary sessions, I am affectionately addressed by my dear colleagues as the gentleman from Davao and Bohol. I take this not only with honor and pride, but also with the responsibility to keep myself, like the above-mentioned natural land formations, in highest standards as a public official. Linggo bago natin gunitain ang Semana Santa, nagkaroon po ako ng pagkakataon na makauwi sa hometown ng aking ina sa Antiquera, Bohol. Sinamantala ko na rin po ang pagkakataon na silipin ang resort sa gitna mismo ng Chocolate Hills na kamakailan lamang ay naging laman ng mga balita. Kumpirmado, naroon nga po ang resort sa pusod ng Chocolate Hills. The Mount Apo Natural Park, on the other hand, hit so close to home. I grew up in Santa Cruz, Davao del Sur, at seeing Mount Apo towering upon Davao region continually watching over us. Umasa po ako na sana'y mabigyang linaw ang ilang mga isyu na ating didinggin ngayong araw. Ano po ba ang ating mga namamayaning polisiya o prevailing policy hinggil sa paggamit ng ating mga public domains? Mula pa po nung ako'y bata hanggang magsilbi ako bilang sundalo at mamalagi ng mahabang panahon sa kabundukan at paanan ng Mount Apo. Nagkaroon pa ako ng pag-unawa na tayong mga tao ay nakikiraan lamang sa mundong ito. Hindi maikakaila na may hindi mapapatid na ugnayan ang kalikasan at tao. I wish to hear from our resource persons in the course of this hearing, ano ang mga gagawin natin upang masiguro natin ang tunay nating naaalagaan ang ating mga likas na yaman, proactive, not reactive. Our national monuments and protected areas must unite us, not divide us. May mga nababasa kasi akong komento, Madam Chair, na nagsasabing, ang mga Bulanon ra ang nakahibalo kung unsa ang maayo para sa Bohol. Meaning only the Boholanos know what is truly good for Bohol. Parallel to that, others might also say that only those from Davao City, Davao del Sur, and Cotabato province know what is best for Mount Apo. But I disagree, Madam Chair, very strongly. Issues like environmental protection and biodiversity requires and demand a unified approach. Hindi pwede dito ang idya-idya, aho-aho. Sa Bulanon pa, kung sa Tagalog, kanya-kanya. Magkakaisa tayo dapat dito. Thank you, Madam Chair, for calling this hearing, as well as my colleagues for heeding the urgency of these matters. as a Bulanon and Dabaonon, but most of all, as a Filipino, I am deeply grateful. And kalimutan ko pala bagitin, Madam Chair. Yesterday, I was also invited by the good Secretary of DNR, Secretary Luisaga, to join his team. Nag-inspection rin kami doon sa Mount Apo National Park. Kahapon lang po. Yun lang, Madam Chair. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bato de la Rosa. We now recognize Senator Raffy Tulfo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ang DNR, ang ahensya ng gobyerno na natasang pangalagaan at bantayan ng ating kalikasan. But because of recent events, lumilitaw na ang DNR ay isang ahensya na matatawag kong bantay sa lakay. Turo-turo style. Bakit po turo-turo style? Nagtuturoan. Kapag kami po ay tumawag sa DNR para mag-usisa, mag-imbestiga tungkol sa mga illegal structures, tungkol sa mga paglapastangan sa ating mga kalikasan, nagtuturoan. Ito pa po ang pinakamasakit at nakaka-insulto. Ito pong DNR Freedom Information Manual. Hindi ko alam kung kailan nilabas ito. Na kung saan ipinagbabawal ang DNR na magbigay ng impormasyon tungkol sa mga nag-a-apply ng ECC at mining. God damn. Is this of national security concern? Kaya bawal sa inyong Freedom of Information Manual, bawal kayo magbigay ng impormasyon tungkol sa mga nag-a-apply ng ECC at mining permit. Unang lumabas itong kalokohan sa Bohol, Chocolate Hills. After my exposure, nakatanggap ako ng maraming sumbong tungkol sa paglalapastangan naman ng kalikasan sa Digos, Davao. 97 na mga structures na naitayo doon. Out of those 97, there are few na na-issue ng ECC. But marami doon ang hindi pa. At patuloy pa rin nagpapatayo ng struktura. At nang tumawag po kami kung anong gagawing hakbang ng DNR, we were told, bigyan daw ng 2 years palugit para pagdesisyonan nila kung isasara ba ang dapat isara o hindi isara ang dapat hindi isara. Again, hindi ho ba kabalastugan na naman yan? Now, meron naman po ako natanggap na sumbong sa Bohol pa rin. Ito po ang isang shipyard na kung saan 19 hectares po na mangroves ang sinira para mapagpatayo ng shipyard doon. Now, alam ko na ipinagbabawal ang pagputol ng mangroves base po sa Republic Act noong 1990. Pero bakit po pinayagan ang pagpapatayo ng isang shipyard sa Bohol? Bakit po nabigyan ito ng ECC? Ngayon, magkaharap-harap tayo. Sana wag ko kayo magturuan. Dahil it will be an insult to us here, senators, na in front of us, magtuturuan pa rin kayo. And I'm happy na nandito Secretary Yulo Loizaga, na I'm sure yung mga katanungan ko namin tungkol sa paglapastangan sa ating kalikasan ay masasagot na maayos. Black sand mining sa Zambales. Nung last budget hearing, Secretary Loizaga, napag-usapan natin to, and you did promise na you look into it or better off, ipapahinto yun. Anak ng dagat. Sana ba? Tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang paglapastangan sa ating black sand sa Zambales. Ito pang masaklap. Libre na nga ang pagmina nila ng black sand doon, karamihan ay from China, and then ibinebenta pabalik sa ating gobyerno. Anong klaseng kabalastugan po yan? Ibinebenta sa reclamation dyan sa Pasay at sa iba pang mga reclamations sa iba't ibang parte ng Pilipinas. Kumuha sila ng black sand sa karagatan natin and then, ng libre, ibebenta pabalik sa atin. Hindi pa kalokohan po yan? You guys have to explain. Matagal na pong naging pabaya kayo dyan sa DNR. Hanggang ngayon, patuloy pa rin sa pagiging pabaya. Lumilitaw tuloy na kayo po yung mga protektor ng mga nagsisirang kalikasan. Masungi Geo Reserve. Bakit po nabigyan ng ECC ang Rizal Wind Energy Corporation o Vina Energy? Napakatagal na po na problema itong sa Masungi Geo Reserve. Hanggang ngayon, di po marisolba. Bakit? Sa ngalan ng ano? Sabi pa nga nila sa kanto, baka sa ngalan ng Tito Vic and Joey. Yung tatlong muka sa isang papel. nung panahon yun kasi hindi lang titibigyan yun eh. Yan lang po, Madam Chair. I'll reserve my other questions later.
Thank you very much, Senator Tulfo. I wish to acknowledge the presence of Senator Padilla. Thank you. And meron daw opening statement po, virtual opening statement si Senator Bongo. We acknowledge Senator Bongo.
Mamaya na lang po ako magbibigay ng statement. Madam Chair, mamaya na po ako magbibigay ng statement po. Salamat po.
Very much. Nasa biyahe daw. Before we start with our discussion, may opening statement. Wala daw. Thank you. Before we start with our discussion, may I first call on the committee secretary to put an oath the resource persons.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I request our resource persons to please stand? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth and the Senate inquiry? Thank you. You may now take your seat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now acknowledge Secretary Loizaga because he asked that she be dismissed earlier, so we will give her a chance to say her piece before we start the question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Honorable Senator Cynthia A. Villar, Honorable Maria Lourdes Nancy Binay, Honorable Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, Honorable Senator Rafi Tulfo, Honorable Senator Robin Padilla. Good morning. Honorable members of the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources and Climate Change and the Committee on Local Government. Colleagues in the DNR and co-workers in government, good morning. May I respectfully begin by thanking the two committees for initiating this public hearing to shed light on the reported exploitation and defacement of certain protected areas. This was highlighted by the recent discovery of a resort structure within the Chocolate Hills Natural Monument, a 13,994.95 hectare protected area and recognized UNESCO Global Geopark. Today's inquiry in aid of legislation into the status of and reported illegal structures within the protected areas is a testament to Congress's unwavering commitment to conservation and environmental stewardship, recognizing the critical importance of protecting and maintaining the natural, biological, and physical diversities of our environments, most notably within our protected areas. These protected areas serve as vital sanctuaries that support the web of life that consists of unique diversity of biological life and the land, air, and water that sustains them. These invaluable terrestrial, coastal, and marine ecosystems not only serve as crucial habitats for endangered species, they provide essential ecosystem services for food, water, and energy security, and they embody the specific culture, spirit, and identities that constitute our nation. While the intersecting ecological, physical, and social geographies have different boundaries, ultimately, the establishment of protected areas is legislative in nature. We respectfully recognize that these are therefore deeply in line with the authority of Congress to investigate and assess the effectiveness of the law in terms of existing protection and conservation measures in these areas, as well as to identify both old and new threats and propose and legislate amendments to the existing law to enhance this area's preservation. It was for this very same reason that Congress in 2018 passed Republic Act 11038, or the E-NIPAS Act, which increased the number of protected areas and provided strong conservation measures and penalties for its violations. However, in the past 4 years since its passing, the DNR has sought to implement its rules and regulations, contending with realities on the ground, including disasters and the pandemic. The E-NIPAS law has been tested against the context of rights that preceded its passing, the various national and local laws and formal and informal agreements that have altered the distinct landscapes and seascapes, the need for livelihoods and the support to the national economy, the challenges of inadequate budget, number of personnel with knowledge and capacity, as well as powerful influences and pressures, both benign and malignant. The Chocolate Hills was established as a protected area by RA 11038. It is a symbol of our national heritage, and this has become under scrutiny due to the construction of a resort facility that may have overstepped, in fact, legal and environmental boundaries. The Chocolate Hills are not only a figure of our nation's natural beauty, but also proof of our commitment to conservation. The presence of the resort facility undermines these values and threatens the integrity of the natural monument. Unfortunately, we believe our investigations will yield even more human-induced impacts on this fragile geological system. Our initial investigation has revealed that Captain's Peak Resort appears to be a titled property among the vast alienable and disposable areas within the area. Not only is there one title or two, we have discovered there is a third title involved. Its construction and operations are without the necessary environmental compliance certificate, a clear violation of the NIPAS Act and the Protected Area Management Board resolutions that have been issued. The DNR is also investigating various environmental violations, including those related to the Clean Water Act. On March 14, 2024, our regional offices have issued an indefinite cease and desist order against Captain's Peak Resort. Because of this, however, it has the effect of loss of livelihood. We have now also facilitated the enrollment of the displaced employees of Captain's Peak into the DOLE's Tupad program in order to tide them over in the meantime while this process is undergoing. This is a process, together with DOLE, that we hope to be able to replicate in other situations where there will be displacement. These actions and the continuing investigation of the PA demonstrate our commitment to enforcing environmental laws and preserving the integrity of the Chocolate Hills Monument. To date, there are 248 protected areas, as mentioned earlier by Madam Chair. These cover 7.4 million hectares. Given the vastness of this area, we humbly acknowledge the enormous challenge that the department has in addressing the conservation and protection of our biodiversity from species loss, given as we must take into account the impacts of climate change, human activities which may alter land and sea and coastal use, and bring about pollution. This mandate must be fulfilled by the DNR despite its resource limitations to ensure compliance and our limited enforcement capacity. Nonetheless, under this administration, we remain steadfast. When I assumed office in 2022, I made it clear that the continuing preservation of the country's indigenous species as part of our natural heritage, and at the same time, we must harness these resources for the benefit of our country, will be one of the key elements of the department's shared vision. In closing, the department is fully aware that what has happened in the Chocolate Hills Monument is not in isolation. Other protected areas require investigations. In the case of Captain's Peak Resort, the proponent failed to secure an ECC, a necessary requirement under the NIPAS Act, in order to determine any potential significant adverse impacts of the project or activity on the protected area. While the present law allows development activities and special uses as ecotourism facilities, the provision of renewable energy and water supply within our protected areas, these are, however, subject to regulatory requirements and safeguards that the proponent should strictly abide to, namely, the alignment of the proposed project to the management plan of the protected area. The proposed project should be within the multiple use zone and securing the PAMB clearance and an ECC and an FPIC as required. These are in place to ensure that development does not come at the cost of environmental degradation and biodiversity loss. Realizing the occurrence of similar incidents in other areas, the department has come up with the following actions. First, I have instructed all regional offices to conduct an inventory of all existing structures within the PAs and evaluate the compliance thereof with environmental regulations and standards. And with the indulgence of the committee, Madam Chair, there are presentations on the different protected areas that have been mentioned. Secondly, regional offices were also enjoined to conduct a comprehensive review of all ECCs issued for projects within PAs. Third, there will be approval, the approval of by regional offices of ECC applications for projects within PAs is now suspended until further notice. And all pending and future ECC applications within the PAs will be processed at the EMB Central Office, and this must secure the endorsement of the Biodiversity Management Bureau. Fifth, it is also in this context that the DNR, the DILG, and the DOT issued a joint statement of collaboration, and Honorable Secretaries Abalos and Frasco and I have made recommendations on the approval process, including the composition of the PAMB. We respectfully acknowledge with thanks the strategic and operational partnerships with the DILG and the DOT on many intersecting environmental issues. Lastly, this year, I've also directed all regional offices to submit the complete inventory of all protected area community-based resource management agreements, or PACBARMA, and determine that those that are non-compliant and they must be recommended for cancellation. This is also in line with the ongoing collaborative efforts of the DNR, the DOJ, the DILG, the DSWD, in response to the Senate inquiry on Socorro, Siargao Protected Land and Seascape. The first phase of cancellations will be effected this month. We trust that these efforts will allow us to fully examine the actions of all stakeholders involved in the PAs, including not just the DNR, the PAMB members, the private sector, the NGOs, and the local government units and their constituencies. It's imperative that we establish the histories behind the facts, understand the implications of these developments, and take the appropriate legislative action to protect and conserve our protected areas. It is also imperative that we recognize that in environmental protection and conservation, there is no such thing as a monopoly on good. These are whole of society and not just whole of government efforts. We therefore respectfully urge that the two committees to support and ensure the passage of the bill creating an Environmental Protection and Enforcement Bureau, a long-term legislative measure that will strengthen the environmental law enforcement capacity of the DNR in our protected areas. As we proceed with these investigations, the DNR is committed to uncovering the truth that lies in the history of these challenges, holding those responsible accountable, instituting internal organizational changes which are already underway, and recognizing any legislative measures that the two committees may so propose. The effects of decades of past legislation, proclamations, specific human decisions, and powerful influences and pressures, both benign and malignant, cannot be undone in a matter of months. Under this administration, we will, however, work tirelessly to protect our natural heritage and enforce the laws designed to protect it. There are good men and women in the DNR. Without their efforts and our organizational transformation, we would not be able to do this job. We aim to further build an organization that is fit for purpose. We thank the Senate for its attention of these critical issues and look forward to a thorough and fair inquiry. And I beg your indulgence, and I wish to pay my courtesies to both Senator Lauren Legarda and Senator Bongo, who are present virtually. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good morning.
Thank you very much, Secretary Loizaga. First of all, we want you to give a copy to the committee of what the DNR have issued recently with regards to the protection,
Yes,
what you have mentioned
Yes,
in your
Madam Chair.
speech. And I just want to ask you one question. Is the Masungi contract, which is endless, di ba? No time frame, is that valid?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will turn over to our legal department, the head of legal, Yusek Jun Adobo. This is a matter of legal question,
Yeah.
and we are aware of the circumstances that surrounded the signing of this contract. And we do have an opinion from the DOJ at this moment that actually says that it is unconstitutional. So if I may turn over to Yusek Jun Adobo. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With the permission of the Secretary. Already said our position, finding that the contract, that the MOA is infirm, illegal, was also sustained by DOJ. So it is, Madam Chair.
So what are you going to do?
We are in the process of cancelling we recommended actually the cancellation of the MOA.
Madam Chair, the legal grounds for the cancellation are what we are calling voidance ab initio, given the advice of the DOJ.
What do you mean by that?
From the very beginning,
It is void from the very beginning, so it doesn't have
So
the
it
effect.
doesn't exist. If it's void, it doesn't exist. Oh, how come they are still there?
Madam Chair, if I may, there is a presentation that will recall the history of this place.
Okay.
And there will be, in fact, circumstances that will be revealed in that presentation that actually pertain to another entity called Blue Star Construction Company.
Okay.
That is part of
So,
the history of the area.
You have a general PowerPoint ng DNR that you want to present.
Madam Chair, we will present the individual PowerPoints for each of the protected areas. So we can begin, Madam Chair, with your indulgence on the Chocolate Hills
Okay.
presentation.
Can
Thank
you
you,
give us a copy of that PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am.
the
We will
committee,
submit everything.
So we can watch it even if we're not in the hearing.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, will the Secretary be staying after the PowerPoint presentation or aalis na po ba siya?
Be leaving at 12, di ba? Oh, so she will stay up to 12. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, siguro before they start the individual presentation, but in general, what is the policy when it comes dun sa mga protected areas? Like, permitting, ano ba talaga yung areas that can be developed for ecotourism? Meron ho bang ganung dokumento ang DNR that will be cascaded dun sa mga PAMB within the protected areas?
Thank you very much for that question, Madam Chair and Senator Binay. There is a policy construction, and the implementing rules and regulations of the INAIPAS are actually the guidance for the different practices and policies. There are in the protected areas multiple use zones and strict protection zones. However, there are also other rights that will need to be recognized if they preceded the enrollment in the INAIPAS list. In the case of Chocolate Hills, as you will see, Madam Chair, of the 13,900 or so hectares, about 13,500 are actually alienable and disposable prior to the enrollment of the Chocolate Hills in the INAIPAS list. So those are some of the rights that we need to contend with, because there are titles that had been issued already historically. And I'll turn over to Yusek Adobo for the legal basis for that.
Yeah, but the question has been answered, Madam. Yes, we have regulations to follow.
And nati-check nyo naman ho yung compliance because, I mean, based dun sa nakikita namin dun sa mga protected areas, parang it's just a piece of paper, di ba? Parang wala akong ginagawa yung mga taga-DNR sa baba to implement yung supposed to be IRR in protecting the protected areas. Na in fact, katulad ho dito sa Chocolate Hills, kaya ho to pumutok kasi meron hong isang vlogger na pinopromote niya yung Captain's Peak para bisitahin. Di ba? Hindi pa nga dahil may concern tayong citizen to protect Chocolate Hills, but actually to protect the, to promote the resort. So, yun na nga, katulad ng nasabi niyo, Secretary Loizaga, I agree with you na there are plenty of good people sa DNR, but at the moment, hindi ho natin siya nararamdaman at hindi rin ho siya nararamdaman ng ating mga kababayan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And to respond to that, under the INAIPAS law, the construction and the membership of the PAMB, the Protected Area Management Board, is vital to understanding why, in fact, the management of these areas is as they are. Under the law, there is a list of who should be the members of the PAMB. And in different situations, there are as many as 100, 147 members, etc. The membership of the PAMB is dominated by the local interests. The DNR sits as chair. It does not vote. And the PAMB can be constituted when the DNR is absent or not available because there is another pressing engagement by the majority of the members. In the case of Chocolate Hills, it was the barangay officials that actually approved the resolution. And that is in fact one of the longer standing policy changes we would like to propose, as well as a change to the legislation in terms of the construction and membership of the PAMB and what its role should be.
That is my experience also in our legislated protected area. There are too many barangay captains. Why do you have to ask every barangay captain to be there? You can have one representative from the Association of Barangay Captains. Dito ang nagbigay ng ECC, yung barangay captain lang eh. Kasi ubot sa dami ng barangay captain eh. So ano malay ng barangay captain what is good for the environment? Sila yung pinakamadaling i-influence. In fact, in our city of Las Piñas, ang ini-influence ng gustong mag-reclaim are the barangay captain kasi madali silang lokohin. Oo. So gusto nila mag-meeting kami at manalo yung mga barangay captain sa PAMB meeting. Ako lang ang pumigil dun eh. Oo. Kasi I don't think it's fair. I don't think the barangay captains understand the damage that what they're going to pass at PAMB would be disastrous to the protected area. So I think I agree with you that we should change the constitution of the PAMB to give more power to those who understand the issues. Oo, kasi hindi nila naiintindihan ng issue. Kaya katulad dito sa Chocolate Hill, nagbigay ng permit on behalf of the PAMB are all barangay captains.
Madam Chair, pag nagko-constitute ba yung PAMB, yung barangay captain ba nagpe-prepare ng agenda?
Hindi.
Who
DNR.
prepares the agenda?
DNR.
Yung PAMO po, no? The PAMO serves as the
But
secretariat.
Which
the
is part of
secretariat
the-
is the DNR.
So, hindi ho totoo yung sinasabi niya na walang alam yung DNR kasi you prepare the agenda. So, kung hindi kayo available, I mean, ano i-approve ni Kapitan kung hindi niyo gagawin yung agenda?
Tsaka tingin ko, may alam yung DNR at saka local government, kaya ang approve na lang yung mga barangay captain para hindi sila masisi. Gimmick yan eh. Oo, kaya ang pinag-approve nila ng yung mga barangay captain, kasi kung masisi yung barangay captain, walang effect yun sa kanila, di ba? Parang ginamit yung mga barangay captain to approve the PAMB certification. Kung ikaw ay matalino, hindi ka papayag ng gano'n na mga barangay captain madi-decide what do you want to do with your protected area. I mean, tingin ko, kasi ang PAMB meeting, ang secretariat is DNR. Kung ayaw magawa ng meeting ng DNR, pwede naman nilang wag matuloy yung meeting eh. Katulad sa amin, sinabi ko sa DNR, tigilan mo ako dyan. Kung puro barangay captain ang haharap sa akin. Kasi member ako ng PAMB, kaya I was asking Senator Bato na mag-active ka sa PAMB ng Mount Apo para matakot sa'yo. Kasi pag ikaw simpleng barangay captain lang, hindi ka katatakutan eh. Kaya hindi kami nagbi-meeting ng PAMB kasi alam ko na gagamitin nila yung mga barangay captain to approve yung whatever they want. Di ba? So hindi na lang kami nag-meeting ng PAMB. Ay tanong mo kay Director Kaan-Kaan, di ba sabi ko sa iyo, wag na tayo mag-meeting ng PAMB kung yung mga barangay captain lang yan ang masusunod, di ba? O imagine, i-outvote ang senator, congressman, ang lahat ng DNR, tsaka yung mga NGO, kasi ang dami-dami nila. Like if it's 30,000 hectares, gano'ng karaming barangay captain ang kasali? Outvoted. Outvoted. So ang masusunod barangay captain.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I know if the constitution of PAMB is nandyan yan sa NIPAS Act?
Yes po.
Nandyan talaga?
Nasa NIPAS.
So kailangan i-amend natin yung NIPAS Act na yan.
That's correct po. Meron po kaming proposal, in fact, at the end of the...
So Madam Chair, we would like to solicit their recommendation kung anong gusto ninyong amendment gawin natin para hindi tayo palaging ganun ang problema.
Yun nga. Kaya sinasabi ko, kasi nakita namin dito sa Chocolate Hills na nag-approve, puro barangay captain. Wala nang iba.
Yes, Madam
Tingin
Chair.
ko, ginamit yung mga barangay captain para makalusot eh.
As instructed by the committee, we also prepared our position paper. And
But
in
sana,
there,
nung nagkakaganon na, we were given notice.
we proposed the amendment of the membership
Kasi
of...
this happened after the passage of the INAIPAS Act of 2022 na hindi pa nai-implement kasi it took time for the INAIPAS Act to be implemented. Ginawa nila before the implementation of the INAIPAS. Binigyan nila ng clearance, di ba? Anong date binigyan ng clearance? Before the implementation of the INAIPAS.
There were... But the region can actually attest to this.
Kailan binigyan ng
There were
clearance?
two
Parang
resolutions
sinircumvent
passed
nila yung
in
INAIPAS,
2012 and another one in
Time binigyan ng
2018.
clearance.
The INAIPAS was passed on June 22, 2018. But to answer the question, and then of course to give light to the query of Senator Binay, Madam Chair, it is not all the call
Attorney, excuse
of
me,
the
Madam
PAMO.
Chair. Ganun mo yung microphone para marinig ka.
Yeah.
Ilapit sa bibig yan.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you.
It is not all the call of the PAMO to initiate a meeting. Any member of the PAMB can call for a meeting when supported by the majority of its membership. A meeting can be had, an agenda can be tackled. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And with the case of dun sa Chocolate Hills, who initiated the hearing? Yung barangay captain?
The red of Region 7, with the authority of the Secretary, may answer the question.
Yes, please answer.
Yes, Madam Chair, good morning. It was the regular meeting, the regular quarterly meeting. It is a scheduled meeting of the...
Yeah. Called by the DNR?
By the PAMO, yes.
So
Or
so sila yung gumawa ng agenda? Tama po ba?
Yes.
Yeah, so DNR pa din. Tama po ba, Yusek Adobo?
Madam Chair, we were not there at obviously at the calling of the meeting. If I may.
But the DNR is in existence when this happened, di ba?
Yes.
And not all of the DNR officer were appointed political appointments. Merong meron kayo na na dati ng mga tawag dito? Career. Oo. So yung career ang pa-answerin mo dito. It was approved in February 2018 before the implementation of the INAIPAS Act of 2018. This one, a resolution endorsing the proposed Captain Peak Garden Eco Park Tourism. This was approved in February 2018. Ang INAIPAS Act was implemented in July 15, 2018. Kaya, yes.
Madam Chair, if I may, whenever there's a meeting, the sheer number of the attendees will outvote even the DNR. So
ma'am,
yeah, I understand,
ang
ma'am.
point is, kung hindi yun na agenda, walang i-outvote to begin with.
This is how the agenda is prepared. No? Any member of the PAMB can submit to the PAMO topics that they wanted discussed during
Sige, Yusek,
regular
siguro para mas
registration.
malino, can you just submit to the committee who initiated the permitting of Captain Speak and the others? Kasi parang pinapalabas niyo ho na, well,
Yes, ma'am.
na walang kasalanan yung DNR. Have you investigated yung mga personnel ho, and have you done any preventive suspension with mga personnel of DNR?
As instructed by the Secretary, yes, we have started our investigation.
Like for
We
example,
haven't-
yung sa ano ho, sa Surigao, Pakbarma, si Senator Bato did the hearing a year ago. Meron na hubang na preventive suspension dun sa pagdating dun sa Surigao case?
Madam Chair, the case in Socorro actually is part of an ongoing collaboration with the DOJ, the DILG, the DSWD, and the DNR. We are at a point where we're actually canceling the Pakbarma, and there are now a joint effort by DSWD, DILG, and DSWD, the DIG, and the DOT to actually try and correct the situation in Socorro. We are going to institute a program for the displaced
Yeah, ma'am,
person.
kasi parang ang dating ho kasi, kaya paulit-ulit yung violation. Kasi wala naman hong nakakasuhan. Walang nakukulong sa DNR. I mean, even a preventive suspension, parang wala ho kaming naririnig. May ganun ho bang, walang fear eh. Kaya I think tuloy-tuloy lang yung ginagawang mali. Kasi nga, walang takot.
Siguro, may committee investigated the case in Socorro. Nakita naman natin doon na initially, no, kung maghanap tayo ng makakasuhan na DNR, mukhang wala akong nakikita doon dahil nga initially maganda yung pasok. Talagang dinaanan nila lahat ng proseso. Nangyayari lang yung problema dahil na-convert into kulto yung Pakbarma holder. So doon na nagsimula ang problema. Pero kung yun nga, ang sabi ni Senator Binay,
We discovered in the investigation that the original beneficiaries are not there anymore. Itong
Patay naman.
kulto, hindi sila yon.
Hindi sila, ma'am.
So, illegal na sila.
at saka ma'am, ang nakita nga natin doon ma'am, yung problema ng DNR, bakit hindi sila nag-inspeksyon? Kasi kung nag-inspeksyon sila, hindi dapat tumubo ng gusto yung kulto doon. Kung nag-inspeksyon sila regularly. Ang sabi ng DNR sa akin, takot sila dahil hindi nga makapasok yung mga taga-munisipyo, hindi sila makapasok. Sabi ko, nandiyan naman PNP, nandiyan ang armed forces, pwede mo sila humingi ng assistance para makapasok sila doon. Kaya sabi nga ng DNR, ang mandato nila, hindi nila gaanong ma-perform to the fullest dahil kulang sila ng tao. Hindi ba kailangan punuin natin ang taong DNR? Kuan lang ma'am, yung coordination lang with other government agencies para magampanan natin yung ating mandato. So ganun lang dapat gawin natin, makipagtulungan tayo para magampanan natin. Yun lang yung tungkol sa Socorro, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Tira ngayon sa Socorro are not the beneficiaries. They are not there anymore. This cult is different. Hindi sila yon. Kaya pwede silang paalisin. In fact, ang usapan doon, i-relocate na sila in other places. And madali naman mag-relocate kasi kami, doon sa amin Las Piñas, Parañaque, Wetland Park, I discovered 300 squatters. I called MMDA. Tinanggal nila. Because there is such thing as the, what you call this, the Mandamos of Manila Bay, that it is the responsibility of 13 government agencies to clean Manila Bay. So I called on MMDA because MMDA is one of them. And they removed the 300 squatters. Bakit hindi nyo magawa yun sa Socorro?
Madam Chair, if I may, I'll turn over to Yusek Mark Fragada to explain the process that we undertook together with the DILG, DOJ, and DSWD.
Madam Chair, Your Honor, good morning. First off, for the Socorro incident, we coordinated with the DILG, DSWD, Gawad Kalinga, even the DepEd, and we had to conduct a series of meetings. We had 5 meetings since that incident, and actually the consensus of the whole group was for cancellation. Actually, we have the cancellation here already, cancellation order, which is the first step. Secondly, we decided that because one of the problems was relocation. As you mentioned, these people are not already, they have no right to stay in the area. We've suspended their rights under the provisions of the PACBARM because of the violations. But we were trying to look for other places for them, which we have identified already. And if I remember correctly, even Senator De La Rosa mentioned that we'd like to look for areas that are not contiguous. We'd like to break the cult that has started there. So what we did is reintegration. Yung mga dati pong tinirahan ng mga taong to, before they went up to the mountains, doon po namin binabalik. And a certain portion is relocated to we identified, I think, around 2 hectares, 2 to 3 hectares, where... Actually, ma'am, meron na po tayong area kasi nahirapan po talaga along with the coordination.
Ng ISF, kailangan desidido ka.
Yes,
Kasi
ma'am.
ako, I relocated thousands of ISF. Desidido ako, kaya I was able to do it. Oh, pero kung hindi ka desidido, hindi ka magsasucceed.
Yes, ma'am. I agree, ma'am. The role of the
Because
DNR...
the rule of the, yung Lina law is suitable relocation. Basta may suitable relocation ka, they cannot refuse. Otherwise, gigibain mo sila eh. Kasi kung ayaw nila lumipat eh.
Yes.
Oh, dapat i-implement yun. You're willing to take that step na pag ayaw nila, suitable relocation yan eh. Pag ayaw nila ng suitable relocation, then you have the right to bring them down, to demolish them. Kasi yun lang naman ang ruling of the law. Suitable relocation and or 2 months salary, which is 25,000 pesos. Or, so mamimili sila, gusto ba nilang lumipat sa suitable relocation o gusto nila yung pera. Otherwise, pag ayaw nila, kasi nangyari na yan sa amin, giniba ng DPWH, wala silang nagawa kasi talagang ganun ang Lina law eh. Suitable relocation or 2 months salary. O, pag hindi ka desidido doon, walang mangyayari sa'yo. Puro salita tayo, walang mangyayari.
Yes, Madam Chair. Actually, part of that group we discussed, which is the provincial government, which I think relocation is vested on them. The role of the DNR, the role of the DNR is to actually...
Pag pumasa ka sa provincial government, they are politicians. They don't want any relocation. O, pag umasa, I never relied on the local government. Takot sila eh. Boto nila yun eh. O. So, dapat talaga, NHA ang kausap mo, and you have the, ano kinatatakot nyo eh, kayo, hindi naman kayo elected officials. Ano kinatatakot nyo? Hindi elected official, matatakot. Sino gagawa nito? You cannot rely on the government, the provincial government, because they are elected official. Matatakot yan. Mawawalan sila ng boto. Dapat kayo gumawa niyan. Yes.
Madam Chair, if I may, we already have identified a suitable area for relocation. The funds for the housing and construction is already available. The psychological...
You don't have to provide houses. You can transfer their houses there. Yung lalagyan ng bahay, kung merong funds ka to build houses, but if you don't have, you just transfer their houses there. Ang importante, may lupa.
Madam
na
Chair.
pagtatayuan ng bahay.
Yes, Madam Chair. Respectfully, the LGU has provided funding for the housing construction so that the people not be displaced. The DSWD has provided funding for the reintegration of those to go back down into the village. And now we already have the master plan for the area with the provision that was guided by Gawad Kalinga as engaged by the DSWD. Importantly, Madam Chair,
Bakit hindi nyo ilipat yung bahay nila as is doon and then dahan-dahang magtayo ang local government ng bahay para sa kanila? Pwede yun eh. Kasi kami sa Las Piñas, meron kaming tinatawag na community mortgage program. We didn't provide the houses. We just provided the land. And nirelocate yung houses nila doon. Ngayon, kung may pera ang local government to build houses, then they can build it leisurely. Kasi I don't think yung local government has plenty of money. O, they can do it slowly.
Madam Chair, if I may, in the case of Socorro, in fairness to Governor Lyndon Barbers, talagang siya is aggressively nagmo-move siya talaga na ma-relocate yung mga tao. In fact, siya ang nag-promise ng relocation site sa Kapundo, nagbigay na siya. So, siguro it's just a matter of time. Pag nag-issue na kayo ng cancellation ng PACBARMA, talagang full scale na yung paglipat ng mga tao. Kaya lang, yung nga lang, kuha natin, sana huwag natin kalimutan na itong mga tao na ito ay mga biktima lang rin ito sila sa kanilang fate. Kaya sana kung makancel yung PACBARMA nila, talagang huwag pabayaan ng gobyerno hanggang totally ma-relocate sila dahil kawawa na itong mga tao na ito. Bininta na lang mga bahay nila, wala na silang mababalikan sa lowlands. Kaya kung i-cancel ninyo, implement na yung closure order, sabi mo nga ma'am, whole of government approach para yung mga tao hindi kawawa. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hindi they be given relocation site na pwedeng maging kanila. Kasi yung legislated protected area under the law cannot be yours. Kaya ako, I have no guilt. Like yung mga ISF sa amin nakatira on the easement of the river, it cannot be theirs. It's the easement of the river is government property. Miski patayin nila gobyerno, hindi nila pwedeng kunin yon. So kung bigyan sila ng relocation area somewhere where the land will be theirs, that's for their benefit. Except that the poor people, sometimes they don't understand that. But you have to provide the brains that it's better for them to be relocated in a land that can be theirs. Bakit nila ipagpipilitan ng sarili nila sa isang lupa na hindi magiging kanila forever? Oh, yun ang sinasabi ko sa kanila. It has to be explained to them that this is better for them. Katulad nung aming mga ISF. Ayaw pumunta may bahay, may lupa. Tapos one land down payment, 700 ang hulog. Ano pa hahanapin mo na magkakasarili ka ng bahay? Tingin ko upa nila doon sa lupa 1.5 hindi 700. Ito may sarili kang bahay at lupa. And at the same time, ayaw pumunta doon pag walang pera. Di binibigyan ko ng pera para pumunta na lang doon para matapos ng away namin. Pag binigyan mo na ng pera, gusto na. Kasi mahilig sila na may cash silang dala. So, isa-psychologize mo din sila kung ano gusto nila. Tingin ko, you have to give financial assistance in addition to the relocation area. And then, I think the local government or DNR or the DSWD can do that. The ICE.
Madam Chair, if I may,
yes.
just to acknowledge the contribution of and the role of the SWD, they have actually been able to convince some of those that were already up there to go back and reintegrate into the neighborhood. They have also provided funding for, in fact, the accompanying the relocation. They have also provided, Senator Bato, please, on psychological support for the victims of the indoctrination of the cult. This was the main reason for some of the delay. We could not instill more trauma on, for example, the child soldiers that were being trained or those that had already been abused. So the SWD stepped in and provided the psychosocial intervention for this particular group of residents in the area. So, ma'am, if I may, Madam Chair, we are already about to implement the whole plan, and it just took this time because of everyone's contribution. And I should also cite the role of DOJ in proceeding with the criminal cases of those that are involved in the cult. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You should give us every quarter an update so we will know what's happening. Kasi the problem is, kaya tayo nagko-question, it has been a year. Wala kaming news kung may nag-move na o wala pa o gano'n. So we'll go back to Chocolate Hills. You just give us an update of what's happening in Socorro or Siargao, di ba? This is a Siargao protected area. The schedule would be that we'll first discuss Chocolate Hills and then the Mount Apo. And if we will not be finished on time, we'll reserve the two other, the Masungi and the Siargao next time. Kasi I don't think we will have enough time. So we go back to Chocolate Hills. So you can make now your presentation on Chocolate
Madam Chair,
Hills.
can I be given the opportunity to ask some questions? Thank you, Madam Chair. Didiretso na po muna ako doon sa Mount Apo. 97 po yung mga structures nandoon around Mount Apo, covered ng reserve area. Bakit po 6 lamang po ang nabigyan ng ECC at karamihan ay walang ECC at in process? Ano po ang plano nyo doon? Actually, 57 wala pong ECC, 32 in process, and then 6 lang ang may ECC. So, what's the game plan?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator. I will turn over to Red Dumagan. That is part of her presentation on Mount Apo, and she can respond directly to the questions. Red?
We will ask if we will go with Mount Apo first or Chocolate Hills. Oh, we'll go na to Mount Apo. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Red?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning to our honorable senators. Your Honor, per our latest update, there are a total of 96 establishments within MANP, and 3 are with complete, it's with PAMB clearance, ECC, and SAPA, sir. And with PAMB clearance and with ECC, there are 6 establishments.
That's right. So,
Yes, sir.
but there are 57 structures na walang ECC. And 32 ay pinoprocess pa lamang yung kanilang ECC. So what is your plan about these structures na walang ECC? And they're within the protected area.
Yes,
Madam
sir.
Chair, with your indulgence, Senator, maybe present the full presentation on Mount Apo so you will see the details and the ways forward, Madam Chair, Senator.
No, yes ma'am, I understand. Pero sa akin gusto ko lang sana direct to the point na muna dun sa question ko kasi mapapahaba pa tayo. Yun lang po ang tanong ko, bakit po pinayagan na alam naman natin, protected area yon, pinayagan niyo pa rin patuloy magpatayo ng mga struktura doon at patuloy pa rin po kayo nagpo-process ng mga ECC permit knowing na protected area yon at bawal na doon. At meron po tayong mapa. Bakit po?
Yes, Your Honor. It was just, we strengthened our conduct of monitoring and inventory sometime in 2018 and 2019, and these establishments were discovered. And so these establishments applied for PAMB clearance with the PAMB. So they were also given clearance, and then they were encouraged to then apply for ECC.
Yeah, nabigyan kasi ng clearance ng PAMB, pero alam naman po natin within the protected area yan, at alam naman natin na dapat wala sila doon, and yet we continue entertaining their application and saying that it's in process. So ibig sabihin, may balak tayong bigyan pa sila. So parami para makabuti po, nagsusuputan itong mga illegal structures doon po sa Mount Apo. At kapag kami po ay magtawag sa inyo, sa DNR, nagtuturuan po kayo. Yun po masakit eh. Di ba? You're supposed to be tinatawag nating tagabantay ng ating kalikasan, pero parang bantay sa lakay po ang dating nyo dito. So what are your plans with pertaining to these structures na walang ECC? At yung mga structures na pinoprocess pa lang ECC?
There are 53 latest update, Your Honor.
57. 57.
Sir, may ECC na po yung iba. Opo.
Okay.
So, 34 with PAMB clearance and no ECC. 53 are without PAMB clearance and no ECC.
So anong balak niyo po dito sa wala pang clearance? At
We
walang
have,
ECC at alam niyo po na bawal, dapat wala sila doon. So anong plano? Kasi we were told na bigyan daw ng 2 years, sabi po ng DNR, bibigyan daw po ng 2 years palugit itong mga walang ECC to continue to operate. Ang binigay at ang rason para makabawi daw doon sa kanilang tinayo, sa kanilang investment. In the first place, ba't sila pinayagan na tumayo doon? Sana, hanggat hindi po sila nakakuha ng permit, ng ECC permit, hindi dapat sila pinapayagan magpatayo ng struktura doon. Kaya nga binanggit mo kanina, monitoring, wala kayo ginagawang proper monitoring.
sir, to answer the question as to what do we do with those without ECC, we are going to issue notices of violation.
Notices of violation?
Yes.
Hanggang doon lang po?
Yung sa walang mga PAMB clearance, mag-issue po kami ng mga...
Teka muna, so issue of notice of violation?
Yes po.
Okay, so hanggang doon lang, notice of violation, and then what, ma'am?
And then they will be called for a technical conference, and if for the conduct of case built up, but if they can explain properly or if it is deemed that the project is not detrimental to the environment, they can be issued ECC.
Ma'am,
Place, dapat hindi nabigyan, napatayo yun. Oh, I think your problem, Secretary Lloyd Saga, your regional is very poor or walang concern sa ginagawa nyo. I think the regional is kasi pag pinag-report mo sila ng pinag-report, yung report nila nakakatawa eh. Bakit mo pababayaan na walang ECC at walang PAMB tatayo? So
diba,
you're not watching over it.
Di ba sabi mo kanina, meron kayo ginagawa monitoring dito sa mga struktura na itinatayo sa mga protected areas. Okay, kung meron kayong ginagawa monitoring, dapat itong 57 na structures na nakatayo na ngayon doon, hindi dapat nangyari ito. Dapat napigilan to. Ang ginawa nyo, pinayagan nyo magpatayo dyan, and then pinoprocess nyo while processing their application, dapat mag-apply muna sila, once na-approve na application nila, saka pa lang sila magpatayo ng struktura. Yun po dapat ang patakaran, yun po yung standard. Ang nangyari, pinapayagan nyo na magtayo dyan, and siguro, alam mo na ang dahilan. Sa magkanong kadahilanan, siguro po, ang katanungan ko doon, follow up.
With your indulgence, Madam Chair, can I say something po regarding Mount Apo? Just to answer the query of the good senator.
What your responsibility is. Kasi parang wala silang pakialam. Tumayo ka ng tumayo dyan. Kahit walang ECC, walang PAMB, wala silang pakialam. You cannot do that. You cannot do that.
Dati rin siya, Madam Chair, na red doon sa 11, kaya pwede rin siyang sumagot.
Madam Chair, sir, just to go on further, the Red Dumagan was saying, actually po, the region issued 57 show cause orders already and 24 notice violations and 7
But
cease and
you should
desist
not
orders.
to build. Kasi pag allow mo nang to build, mahirap nang tanggalin. Yun ang
Correct.
problema.
Madam Chair, we agree.
Dapat kayo, hindi nyo ina-allow to build. Kasi pag nag-build na yan, tell it to the Marines. Napakahirap magtanggal niyan. Walang gagawa niyan.
Yusek Fragada,
Yes, sir.
meron kayong monitoring team kung tawagin. Ano pong tawag sa monitoring team nyo? Can you give me the
Sir,
exact
it's
name?
through the Protected Area Management Office po. Meron po
Ano
sila.
tawag?
PAMO Office po.
PAMO Office.
Yes,
What
and-
does PAMO stands for?
Protected Area Management Office.
Okay, sila
all
sa
the
monitoring.
Yes, sir.
So, kailangan itong mga taga-PAMO na may jurisdiction sa Mount Apo, pagsisibakin mo. Totoo, hindi ako nagbibiro. Dahil kapag hindi mo pagsisibakin yan, pagdududahan ng mga tao, hanggang sa kataas-taasan, tumatanggap din.
Yes, Your Honor.
Prove to us na malinis kayo.
Yes, Your Honor.
Na protector talaga kayo ng environment.
Yes, Your Honor.
Kasi tama nga naman sinasabi din ni Senator Cynthia na in the first place, hindi niya sana pinayagan yun na makapagpatayo yan. Sinasabi kanina papaulit-ulit, kailangan permit muna bago structure. Dito, nangyari, structure muna saka mag-apply ng permit. Tapos in process pa yung permit, etc. O ngayon, 57, paano pa ito pasasara itong 57 na ito? At sinabihan kami na give them 2 years daw.
We agree, Your Honor, with your recommendation. One of the problems actually, and we'd like to recommend to the Senate to help us with this, nabanggit niyo po yung constitution ng PAMO office. For Mount Apo per se, we only have around 1 plantilla officer there and around maybe 30 job orders po na umiikot over
So, ibig sabihin po, 31 ang
62,000.
empleyado niyo sa monitoring.
Po 62 over, they have to monitor 62,000 hectares of Mount Apo po. So that's one of the areas we'd like to recommend na matulungan po kami ng Senado.
Sir,
to increase
there's such thing as
our
drone. Pwede mo lang kayo gumamit ng drone para ma-monitor yung the whole area kahit na ilang hektarya pa yan, kahit na thousands of hectares yan. Kung gusto maraming paraan, kung ayaw maraming dahilan, di po ba?
Yes, sir. Actually po, this year, because of the budget, would increase the budget on the drones were increased para nga po
Sir,
further ma-monitor.
Sir, we were not born yesterday. All of us were not born yesterday here. Alam ng DNR na itong 57 na mga illegal structures na tinayo doon ay hindi dapat naroon. Pinayagan nila, sabi kanina, sa magkanong kadahilanan. Dahil kapag hindi, sila ay diretso lamang, hindi sana natayo itong mga structures na ito. Ngayon, mahirapan kayo patanggal to. Nakatayo na eh. Di po ba?
Yes,
so
sir.
sabi ko, yung mga taga-PAMO nyo, sir, disiplinahin nyo yun. Dahil sigurado ako, kasabat yun ng mga nagpatayo ng illegal structures.
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. We will do that.
Salamat, Madam Chair.
Na ang regional.
Can
Can we now go on with the presentation of Mount Apo? So one of the findings is mahina ang regional office, di ba? Kasi we're listing our findings, di ba? So that if we are going to make changes, we know what to make changes. Meron problema ang
Madam Chair,
regional office.
Madam Chair, kasi katulad na nabanggit na parang, well, kulang talaga naman po yung personnel ng DNR. But with the use of technology, hindi ho ba dapat hindi na excuse yung kakulangan ng tao, di ba? Sen. Rafi, alam naman natin may drone. Yung reach ng drone napakalawak at hindi naman kailangan madaming tao yung nag-ooperate ng drone. Are we already starting to use technology in monitoring our protected areas?
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yeah.
By virtue of this year's budget and the transfer of 1.2 billion from the NGP to the protected areas through the initiation of Madam Chair, we are establishing drone teams for the protected areas specifically. Previously, these were only being used in FMB, the Forest Management Bureau. But because of the new budget that we have, we are in the process of procurement of the specific drone teams, including the actual technology and the personnel, ma'am, that will be actually trained to operate this. These are fixed wing, they're longer range, they are not the small drones that are normally assumed. And so that is what we have actually been able to secure in this year's 2024 budget.
With the presentation of Mount Apo, you said you have a presentation.
Okay, with the permission of the Honorable Chair, we'd like to make a presentation on the Mount Apo Natural Park. Please, next slide. This is the outline of our presentation, the map of the Mount Apo Natural Park, including the political boundaries, the management zones, areas covered by CAD-T and CAD-C, the operating establishments, and actions taken. Mount Apo was Mount Apo is a legislated protected area by virtue of Republic Act 9237 or the Mount Apo Protected Area Act of 2003. It has a total area of 64,053 hectares. It is covered by two regions, Regions 11 and Region 12. We have 7 municipalities and 44 barangays. For our PAMB composition, we have 92 members. Region 11 has 81% coverage of MANPI, while 19% is within Region 12.
Question there. Dito sa binigay mong hectarage, ang buffer zone is 6,000, ang multiple use zone is 24,000, ang strict protected zone is 30,000. Ang laki ng multiple use zone na yun ang tinayuan ng mga ano. Bakit ang
Resorts.
laki-laki noon? Kasi laki ng protected. Bakit nyo pa dineclare na protected area yun kung multiple use zone lang yun? Magkasin-laki sila halos.
This was pursuant to the land cover and this was per guidelines to
No,
In
di ba
classification
sinabi
of the-
20% ang multipurpose zone?
legislation.
Meron nga eh. Ngayon lang ako nakarinig ng ganito.
It depends on
Laki
the,
ang laki ng multi-use zone eh.
Ano ba dapat yung percentage ng multiple use zone?
there's no specific percentage pa
But I'm
provided.
sure dapat meron ng minimum.
Madam Chair,
minimum
may we
percentage.
turn over to our OIC for Biodiversity Management Bureau. He will indicate ASEC Mars Amaro.
Madam Chair, Your Honors,
Yeah.
fellow workers in the government, good morning. There is no specific provision under our existing guidelines on what would be the percentage of the multiple use zone and the strict protection zone.
So you mean to say pwede yung 80% yung multi-purpose zone, tapos yung strict zone is 20%?
Yes. Dito halos
If I have to cite the case of the Chocolate Hills, it is 98% alienable or disposable. So basically, we expect existing structures, establishments, town centers, and you cannot use and declare these areas as strict protection zones. So we have recognized. So it is on a case-to-case basis per PA. But as I mentioned, we have in the IRR of the ENI Pass categories such as for strict protection zone, those with natural vegetation of representative of any of the ecosystem types, habitats of endemic and threatened species, areas prone to natural and man-made hazards,
Pero
areas set aside.
kalahati.
So we have all this being looked into and guiding the PAMB.
But this one is one-half is multipurpose zone.
That's right, ma'am.
Madam Chair, so parang ang dating nag-declare pa tayo.
Ba't pa dineclare?
I guess, if I may, as I've mentioned, we will have to look into the history of the many proclamations that have happened before the enactment of the ENI Pass. Yeah, it's in the presentation,
Yeah,
ma'am.
but it's very clear. Unang presentation pa lang questionable
Yes, ma'am.
na eh. Kasi kalahati multipurpose zone. So what kind of protected area is that? Kalahati multipurpose zone?
Madam Chair, hindi kaya prangkahin na lang natin. Dineclare ninyo na multiple use zone yung areas na maraming settled, may mga tao na ba? Area. Yun ang dineclare nyo na multiple use zone. That's the prime consideration of declaring that. Am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor. If
So
I may,
yung pala.
for multiple use zone, I just mentioned yung strict protection zone.
Kasi yung Mount Apo, wala pa yung NIPAS law. Andyan ang tao dyan, ilang generation na yung tao na katira dyan. So yung nag-declare kayo ng protected area, kaya classify ninyo as multiple use zone, yung lugar, lang kapatagan area na may mga tao na nakatira. Ganun. Di ba?
Yes, Madam
So
Chair. Your
yun
Honor.
pala main consideration. Maraming tao nakatira, mas malaki ang multiple use zone.
How can
Parang ganun.
Yeah.
you tell me how you control if kalahati ng area punong-puno ng tao? How can you control that?
Madam
Actually,
Chair, siguro maganda hong tanongin, doon ba sa multiple use zone, halos lahat yan na-occupy ng tao? Yang that half is already
Okay,
occupied?
we proceed. We proceed.
There are dwellings, structures, and farm lots, Your Honor.
Okay lang yung farm lots, pero yung
Barangay. May barangay ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
ilan ang farm? Ilan ang farm dyan? Ilan ang farm? Para kasi kung agriculture, pwedeng ipasa yun eh. Pero, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. May I proceed?
Okay, you go.
Okay, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I would like to show you the historical or legal basis on the proclamation of Mount Apo. To start with, in 1936, next slide, please. In 1936, President Manuel Quezon declared Mount Apo as a national park. In 1957, President Carlos Garcia released 3,946 hectares for agricultural purposes. In 1965, President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. released 140.41 hectares, again, for agricultural purposes. In 1965, President Marcos Sr. Declared 39,050 hectares as timber forest for logging. And then in 1966, President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. revoked Presidential Proclamation number 507-A. And in 1971, Republic Act number 6210, which is the act creating Barrio Kapatagan in the municipality of Digos, province of Davao del Sur. In 1983, President Marcos Sr. declared 44,771 hectares as alienable and disposable. In 1986, President Corazon Aquino reverted the alienable and disposable portion back to the protected area. In January 30, 1992, President Corazon Aquino excluded 701 hectares in Kidapawan for geothermal reservation. In 1996, President Fidel Ramos declared 72,112.59 as the area covered by the Mount Apo Natural Park. And then President Gloria M. Arroyo issued Republic Act 9237 or the Mount Apo Protected Area Act of 2003 in February 3, 2004 with 64,053 hectares as the total area of the Mount Apo Natural Park. Next slide, please. May we also mention that 96% of the park is covered by ancestral domain title or claim. With the three major tribes, the Tagabawa, Bagobo Tagabawa, the Manobo, and the Jangan or Bagobo Klata. Next slide. So we have here our conduct of our protected area occupants. It is still ongoing. For Region 11, there are 18,013 occupants. For Region 12, 13,506, of which 20,000 are mostly tenured occupants. Next slide, please. For the inventory of structures, in Mount Apo Natural Park, we have small structures. We have sari-sari stores, small dwellings, houses, for a total of 8,060. And we have the resorts. We have 93 resorts. We have government-owned structures like schools, barangay halls, gymnasiums, provincial clinics, barangay clinics, for a total of 49. We have 21 churches. We have energy production facility, the EDC and headcore, with approved SAPA already, 3. And our banana growers, who are also SAPA applicants, 108 for a total of 8,366.
Ma'am, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Sinabi mong banana growers, SAPA applicants, meaning wala pa silang SAPA.
Wala pa, sir.
Ongoing yung pag-apply nila.
Ongoing pa, sir.
Ilang taon na sila ongoing?
They applied last 2022.
2000?
They have public clearance now and ECC, sir.
Bago lang yung SAPA na requirement.
Yes, sir.
Nandyan na yung sagingan na yan, wala pa yung SAPA requirement, and wala pa yung INIPAS Act.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
thank you. Salamat.
Okay, for the establishments, for their status of compliance, we have 3 complete with PAMB clearance, ECC, and SAPA. 6 with PAMB and with ECC. With PAMB clearance and no ECC, 34. Without PAMB clearance and no ECC, 53, for a total of 96. So, may we just, yes, ma'am.
Can you go back dun sa ano? Dun sa, kasi di ba parang ang total number of structures is 8,366?
Yes, ma'am.
Ano yung 96?
The 96 are the resorts to include headcore and EDC structures.
Ang wala pang ano?
No, headcore
Sila lang
and,
na nag-apply?
headcore and EDC have SAPAs already, ma'am.
Oo. So ang kasama dun sa establishments with MANP are just the resorts and the energy production facility.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
For our inventory of structures, these are the resorts mentioned during the privilege speech of the Honorable Senator Tulfo. For the Montefrio Resort, they have their PAMB clearance issued last 2019 and their ECC issued last 2021. The Twin Mountain View Resort, with PAMB clearance issued last 2022 and their ECC issued last 2023. The Villar recurso, PAMB clearance issued last 2022 but no ECC yet.
Question. Ito mga resort 2 na to, kailan sila natayo?
I believe during the pandemic, I think they started 2019. That's the time when we get to monitor and conduct inventory on the structures.
So, for example, si Montefrio Resort, meron siyang PAMB. Nung nag-apply siya ng PAMB resolution, wala pa siyang structure that time.
Ongoing, I think it started as a private resort, private rest house, and they expanded to a resort. So I think,
Wait, so nung private rest house siya, meron ba siyang clearance to be a private resort?
none, Your Honor.
So, may violation na siya to begin with. Tapos binigyan niyo pa rin ng permit?
It
So
was
parang
the,
yung mali, kinorek nyo by giving them a permit.
may we mention also that these resorts are within the multiple use zone, Your
Eh,
Honor.
regardless, but they...
Ha? Ikaw
Yes,
ang head?
I am the
Ikaw
OIC
ang nagbigay
regional.
ng permit na yan?
No, Your Honor.
Sino?
It was not yet
Sino?
I reported 2023, I think Ma'am, are you asking for the regional executive director during that time, ma'am?
Kung sino nagbigay ng permit?
The permit was the ECC, ma'am, or the PAMB clearance? For the PAMB clearance, it was the PAMB. For the ECC, it was the EMB. EMB, ang ECC po, director.
The Secretary, for example, this case, itong Montefrio Resort. So, it was a private resort. So, paano siya natayo as a private resort? And then, nag-apply siya para maging open to the public na resort. When, to begin with, parang may violation na siya sa umpisa pa lang.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for that question. If I may refer to the LGU to also provide information that is needed, because any structure that will be built requires a building permit. As in the case of the Captain's Peak, they were given a building permit without an ECC.
But
So
you're
it's not-
supposed to protect... area. We have no more protected area. From my experience, ha?
Thank you.
Kaya hindi kayo dapat kasali doon sa mga local na yun. And don't allow them to give permit. Inyo yan eh. Primary responsibility nyo yan, protected area. Why are you allowing the local? Ako, pag inalaw namin sa Las Piñas, Parañaque Wetland Park yung local, tapos na yung Las Piñas, Parañaque Wetland Park. Wala na yun. Wala na yun. Wala na yun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may just point out, these were all basically ongoing before my administration, and so we are dealing with what is on the ground now.
To
Yes,
tell
Madam Chair.
the DNR, yun ang palagi ko sinasabi sa DNR, when you're not about protecting the environment, don't join DNR, join DTI. Because DTI is the one promoting business. But if you are with DNR, you're supposed to protect the environment. So if you want to make money, join DTI. Don't join DNR.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pwede makasingit. Napapansin ko kanina pa, mahilig kayo dito magturuan. Kundi magturuan, maghugas ng kamay. Ang pinakala, sinabi niyo po, Secretary Loizaga, it was before your term. Okay? Sige, granting gano'n na nga. Now, ikaw na nakaupo at alam mo may mga violation. Correct it. Wag no, don't blame other people. Don't blame the previous administration.
Very respectfully, sir, I am not blaming anyone. I am acknowledging the facts as they are on the ground when I assumed office.
Exactly.
And this is why I have begun to institute these investigations, and we have suspended the power of the region to actually issue ECCs.
Kasi ang sinabi niyo po kanina, Madam Secretary, na ang nag-issue ng building permit ay yung LGU. Right?
That is the reality on
Correct.
the ground, sir.
Exactly. I know that. BPLO. Okay? Kasama pa rin dyan. Magbibigay ng permit kung kinakailangan. Now, kayo bilang taga-monitor ng environment sa DNR, you should have monitored that. Now, nakarating sa inyong kaalaman na bawal yan, you should have coordinated with the LGU and tell the LGU dahil may tinatawag din na sendo, bawal dyan kasi protected area yan. Dapat hindi nyo binigyan ng building permit yan in the first place. That's part of your monitoring.
Thank you very much, sir. And all these investigations have surfaced, in fact, these facts. We are being very careful as far as establishing whose responsibility and authorities were put in line during the process of the construction of these particular structures. We cannot just point fingers, as you said. We have to acknowledge that the investigation and the evidence need to be quite thorough. And that's what we're doing now, respectfully, sir, if I may. At this point, we cannot establish the exact facts during the time that these constructions actually occurred. Even Red Dumagan was not the red during that time. And therefore, we are actually constituting now and actually constructing now these events in order for us to take the appropriate action. So your recommendations, sir, are very well taken. I would just like to humbly represent that we are not pointing fingers here. We are acknowledging the facts on the ground. We are acknowledging the gaps in the law. And we are acknowledging also the possible gaps in our implementation, having seen that, in fact, these structures were erected even if these are in protected areas. I think, sir, at this point, and Madam Chair, with your indulgence, it's really important for us to understand the circumstances behind these actual constructions. We are not fully in control of these areas, as you know, given the kind of manpower that we have. The local governments are partners in the protection of the environment. This is not the DNR's sole job. This is the job of the DNR.
You did mention na kayo ay partners ng LGU.
Yes.
In protecting the environment. So, ba't wala kayo bang ginagawang coordination sa LGU na each time may magpapatayo, kukuha ng permit para, building permit para magpatayo sa isang protected area, dapat kinukonsulta kayo? Dumadaan muna sa inyo? Wala bang ganong klaseng coordination?
Thank you very much, sir. In fact, that is what we're doing at this point. I've also had very close coordination with Secretary DENR Abalos. We are going to try to produce the process that is required in order for, in fact, this to be stopped at the inception rather than the corrective measures that we are having to take now. So between the DLG and ourselves and the DOT, because ecotourism is such a big part of, in fact, this actual activity, we are now coordinating very closely, and we have recommendations on the process as well as the constitution and function of the PAMB that will be submitted as part of our position paper, sir.
Kasi yung BPLO or yung LGU, bago sila magbigay ng building permit, meron tinatawag na zoning, right? Tama? At dun sa zoning, malalaman kung anong area yan, whether that area is protected, whether that area ay hindi dapat mapatayuan o pwedeng patayuan. Then, proper coordination with the LGU, you should know, malalaman mo kung ano yung mga areas na dapat hindi na pinatayo ng building, na dapat yung LGU may coordination din sa inyo para mutually masasabi nyo na hindi pwede dyan, or pwede dyan, okay dyan. So, sa nakikita ko po kasi, marami na napatayo na struktura at sinasabi nyo nga, okay, sige, hindi nyo po control yon, control po ng LGU. Pero kung meron kayong proper coordination, hindi sana napatay yung building na yun through proper coordination with the LGU.
Respectfully, sir, I agree with you, and therefore the coordination needs to be made more effective. I also recognize the point of Madam Chair on the difficulty regarding local dynamics and the pressures that we faced in this type of activities. If I may also, sir, I think that we need to acknowledge that in some of these areas, there are titles, alienable and disposable lands that are already with title. And therefore, we have no option but to recognize the rights and have that regulation be part of the LGU and DNR coordination, as you have suggested, sir.
Madam Chair, siguro itong Twin Mountain View Resort, natayo na ba itong structure na to before nabigyan ng PAMB tsaka ECC? The second resort?
Yes, Your Honor.
So natayo na din siya?
Yes, Your Honor.
And I would assume ikaw na nagbigay ng permit because this was given November 10, 2022.
No, PAMB clearance is 2022. The ECC 2023. This was issued by our EMB, Your Honor.
So, not you.
Not me,
you.
Your Honor.
Pero kasi, katulad na ito, it's not the previous government. This was done 2022. Same issue, natayo na yung, bakit hindi yung naging ruling was to demolish the structure? Bakit ang naging ano is to give the PAMB and the ECC? When to begin with, may violation na siya, ha? Kasi natayo niya na wala siyang PAMB, wala siyang ECC. So bakit hindi niya na lang right there and then inisyuhan sila ng, ano ba yan? To demolish the structure. Kasi they already violated.
Your Honor, it was the PAMB which granted the clearance, but our EMB called them for technical conference and penalized them, Your Honor.
And what was the penalty?
They were made to pay, I think, 50,000.
Hindi, so bakit hindi nyo naisip na ang ibigay na penalty to demolish? Why not use that option?
The process, Madam Chair and Honorable Senator, no, the process is they have to secure PAMB clearance. First, we have
Yeah,
to
pero
be very
Isek,
clear.
wala akong PAMB clearance sa tayo eh. I mean, it's a fact. Natayo yung structure, walang PAMB clearance, walang ECC.
In this case, this would fall under prohibited acts, no? And the law says, like mutilation, alteration, defacing, construction of the law provides penalty for those acts, no? 50 from
And hindi yung penalty,
50,000 to
hindi yung penalty, hindi option nyo to issue.
and rehab the area that they have defaced
Yep.
and mutilated.
Pag PAMB, we can understand because there are local government in PAMB. But ECC, completely DNR yan. Ha? So, wag nyo ipalusot yan. Pati kayo kasali. Pag nag-issue ng ECC, kasali ang DNR. Pwede nyo pa ipalusot yung PAMB, may local government to, but ECC kayo lang yan. Walang nag-i-issue ng ECC kundi ang DNR. So, kasalanan yan ng DNR.
Hindi ba
Sa
kasi,
amin, ang nag-issue ng ECC sa reclamation, DNR. Oh.
di ba
Hindi
po kasi
palusot
Yusek,
yun.
parang kaya hindi rin nga sila natatakot? Kasi alam nila, magbabayad lang naman kami ng 50,000 pesos eh. Kasi you've never used that option na i-demolish yung property. Kasi nga, clearly, they're already in violation of the law.
Yeah, but that's what the law provides, no?
Talaga
Finding
ang DNR. Kasali
the
kayo.
prohibited act.
Huwag niyo
Merong
sabihin na
corresponding
hindi
penalty.
kayo kasali. Talagang kasali kayo. Sa
and-
amin, lahat kayo kasali. Huwag niyo nang sabihin hindi kayo kasali dyan. You agreed with the local government. Kasabuat kayo. Hindi mai-issue ang ECC without DNR. Talagang DNR ang nag-issue ng ECC.
Bakit naghugas kami na naman, Madam Chair?
Ano?
Naghugas kami na naman?
Hindi, ang ECC talaga DNR. Ang
I know.
PAMB, combination ng local yan at saka DNR. Pwede pa silang lumusot dyan. Katulad noon, ang nag-issue, mga barangay captain, oo. Pero yung ECC, hindi pwedeng issue yun ang hindi DNR.
As a follow-up dun sa sinabi ni Senator Cynthia, it makes sense na, or it doesn't make sense na yung bang building na illegal ang pagkatayo ay mumultahan nyo ng 50,000 versus dapat pinatanggal nyo na lang. Pinademolish nyo na lang. Di ba?
Kasi kung susundin natin, Sen. Rafi, yung mga pending na wala pang permit, parang ang direksyon niya, magkakaroon din
So,
siya ng permit.
itong mga pending, bibigyan nyo lang ng, sinabi naman kanina ni I'm sorry, taga-region, pending pero eventually magkakaroon ng permit after certain compliance, kung ano pa man yung compliance na yun. Pero the fact of the matter remains na illegal ang pagtatayo nila doon. So mangyari, mumultahan nyo lang ng 50,000 and then after na makapagbayad ng 50,000 and then igugo nyo na. Dapat, nung makita nyo na illegal yung structure na yun, pinademolish na lang. Kaysa naman pagbayarin ng 50,000 and then igugo later on.
Madam Chair, no, if I may, what the law mandates us to do upon the passage of the INAI pass is inventory existing structures, and then there should be determination if they are detrimental to the spirit of the proclamation or law, making it protected area.
Ako, I can
And then-
understand kung yung A&D, mga agricultural land, I can understand that. But magpapagawa kayo ng mga resort, that's another one. You should ask them to build the resort outside of the protected area on the way to the protected area. They should not build it in the protected area. Ako, I can understand kung ang paggagawa nyo yung mga nakatira doon, mag-agriculture sila. Kasi yung agriculture, mas bagay sa protected area. Magtatanim sila. Okay lang yon. Pero building resort, i-issuean nyo ng ECC in a protected area. That's really something, ha? And ang ECC talagang DNR lang yan. Hindi yan local government. I can understand pa yung PAMB. Pero dito, you have to have PAMB resolution and ECC. Kung ibinigay ng PAMB yung kanilang resolution, huwag nyo ibigay yung ECC. Because that's your responsibility. Ngayon, kung gusto nila, kung magtatanim, okay lang sa akin yun kasi bagay yun, di ba? Sa protected area na taniman natin. Pero yung lalagyan mo ng mga hotel, mga kung ano-ano, sabihin nyo sa kanila, mag-build sila outside the protected area on the way to the protected area. Kasi kikita din sila dun eh. O, kikita lang sila dun. Yung mga lupa, on the way to the protected area, but not on the protected area. Kasi yung protected area, ba't pa natin dineclare na protected area tapos gagawin nating hanap buhay?
Hindi, Madam Chair, hindi na rin sila interesado mag-build ng mga resort outside of the protected area realistically. Dahil wala na mapupunta doon sa outside the protected area dahil ang malamig na lugar, na klima, nandoon sa protected area. Dahil doon yung pupunta mga turista, Kaya doon sa nagbibuild.
natin declare na protected area, gawin na lang nating negosyo.
Yun nga, yun nga.
We're just pretending. We're just pretending.
Ma'am, if I may.
Ako naman, if you don't want to declare it as a protected area, it's okay with me. Kaya lang, pag na-declare na protected area, we have to protect, di ba? Ngayon, kung yung hindi natin mapigil ang local, issue nila yung PAMB. But the ECC, hindi kompleto. So we have a case against them because walang ECC.
Madam Chair, pwede DNR kung may power ba kayo to dismantle? Nakita nyo na kung demolish yung kagad. Kaya yung gawin yan?
Ito po nasa batas,
Nasa batas?
Your Honor. Ang nasa batas, sinabi niya, kung kailangan ng Secretary paalisin, we have to go to court and get a writ.
Ha?
Nandun po sa batas po.
Hindi, right away nakita din yun na unauthorized structure yan. Walang ECC, walang PAMB, walang SAPA o anong requirement. Tanggalin nyo yan. Hindi pwede ganun?
Ganito po. Pagka merong allowable activities within multiple use zone, no?
Yes.
Kaya karamihan nga pala na nadideklara na multiple use zone. Kanina binabasa po ni Asik Marsh yung characteristics noon. Kaya more often than not, natitira, kakaunti na lang talaga yung strict protection zone. Ando na po sila, ma'am. No? That's why the law
Pero
calls for...
balikan ho natin yung SEC, you're modeling the issue. For example, this resort, yung Twin Mountain, di naman to dati nandyan, di ba? Pero binigyan niya pa rin ng permit.
Ma'am, if I may.
Matagal na ba yung resort na yan dyan?
Madam, just to answer your question whether we allow development in protected areas, the answer is it depends. Ang DNR po nag-i-issue ng ECC sa mga development, vertical or horizontal development, pero dapat po may dalawang condition. Number one, we can issue development if the area is a multiple use zone. It is indicated in the law. The second one is that if the activity is consistent with the project protected area management plan. If the activity will not be consistent with the project protected area management plan, then the ECC will not be issued. In the case of these illegal structures, nakita po natin na mga resort, talagang hindi naman po talaga consistent yon. So that's the reason why we're looking at it. Na-interview na po ang DNR. Talagang kailangan po matanggal dyan yan. Kaya lang ang proseso po natin, the DNR has no power to immediately demolish like what we have experienced in Boracay Island. Most of the areas in Boracay Islands are located in a forest land. So talagang illegal po yan doon. Kaya lang hindi po namin siya magawa dahil kailangan po pumunta kami sa court.
Wait, pero nagawa. Nalinis ang Boracay, di ba? I
Ginawa
mean,
po
we
na-
have to give
yeah.
credit kay President Duterte.
That's
Kasi
correct.
talagang nagkaroon siya ng, talagang pinaglaban niya na ma-rehabilitate yung Boracay. At lahat naman sumunod, di ba? So kung gusto, kayang gawin.
Ang nangyari po sa Boracay, dun sa mga areas na kaya natin, katulong po natin yung local government na nag-demolish. Pero DNR alone, under the existing law, we don't have the power, Madam Senator, to immediately demolish and we need to go to court.
Yeah, but you've never exercised the option to demolish eh. The mere fact na binigyan nyo, pinenalty nyo na nga lang ng 50,000 eh. Well, ilang beses nyo in-exercise yung yung power nyo to demolish?
At pwede rin makadagdag, Senator, Ma'am, okay, kapag halimbawa yung isang illegal structure sa within the protected area, dinemolish nyo, madidimanda ba kayo? Alam nyo na kayo nasa tama, alam nyo na may batas na dapat hindi siya nagpatayo. Halimbawa yung isang negosyo, hindi dapat nagpatayo dyan ng struktura, wala siyang ECC, marami siyang violation, etc. Kapag dinemolish nyo yan, madidimanda ba kayo? Makukulong ba kayo? Matatanggal ba kayo sa pwesto ninyo?
Kung madidimanda, sir, Madam
pakisagot.
Chairman, yes, madidimanda.
Madidimanda kayo?
Madidimanda po.
At matatanggal kayo sa trabaho?
I'll take the Boracay as example. I've faced several cases. Kami po yung nagpatanggal. Ang totoo niyan, kaya napadali po yung Boracay. Yung Municipality of Malay, meron po siyang ordinansa. Pero that only pertains to the beach area. Those, they have this so-called 25+5 ordinance. Ang requirement lang po doon, kailangan ng notice. Issuehan nila ng notice. In 10 days, pag walang ginawa, they can summarily demolish. So, pumasok kami with DPWH, napadali po.
So pwede pala?
Pwede po. Pwede.
So, basta't may proseso lang. After 10 days,
Pagka mayroon pong ordinansa in the case of Boracay,
Kaya nga.
in other areas, in fact, there are areas in Boracay that we were not able to do that. Those structures in the forest land, we all went, we went to court for the demolition of those structures. Some are still pending.
pero di ba parang masakit yun na alam nyo na illegal yung pagtayo ng struktura dyan, meron silang binaylit na batas natin, dahil protected area yan, and yet all you can do right away or for the meantime is mumultahan ng 50,000 and then pupunta ka sa korte, which is mahaba yung proseso, tama? Sometimes it will take years bago mag-grant yung request nyo ng korte, tama? Whereas yung nangyari sa Boracay, napakabilis. Agad-agad na maraming na-demolish.
Tama po. In fact, in our position paper, meron po kaming in-include na baka magkaroon kami ng summary authority, an authority to summarily demolish areas, no? Structures in protected areas. Gagawin po namin.
So are you saying na kailangan ng legislation for that? Para
yes po, kasi
magkaroon ng outright authority?
Sa batas mismo, sinabi po, we have to go to court po.
Okay.
Madam Chair, with the indulgence of Senator Tulfo, yung sabi mo, attorney, na equip kayo ng yung city municipal ordinance, yung lugar ng sa Boracay, kaya napabilis.
Opo.
So,
Yes, Your Honor.
in the case of Mount Apo, andito man ang mayor ng Digos, andito yung mayor ng Kidapawan, baka pwede natin silang pakiusapan din na maggawa rin ng Boracay model na resolution. Asa si Mayor?
Presentation, they
Andito
want
si
to
Mayor
present
Cagas
it.
ng Digos, Mayor, saan si Mayor ng Kidapawan? Ano si Mayor ng Kidapawan? Mayor, narinig nyo yung sinabi ni attorney na mayroong resolution? Baka pwede rin kayong, para ma-empower ninyo yung pati national agencies na ma-preserve yung ating lugar. Baka,
I think the provincial would like to make a presentation.
ayos ma'am, andito pa si Governor.
Can we ask her to make the presentation?
Madam Chair, good morning. I've decided to furnish the committee with a statement that I've been prepared to save time as there are other issues to be tackled. Most of the matter have already been said and also in my statement. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Can you give your presentation if you're not willing to make it? Give us a copy
Yes,
of your
ma'am.
presentation.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Madam Chair, with your indulgence, Madam Chair, if I may be excused, there is a full cabinet meeting this afternoon. I have to head to one. Thank you, Madam Chair. And certainly, Madam Chair, all the different advices and guidance will be taken very seriously by this administration. We are here and in fact to actually present a position paper as to how we can strengthen the protection capacity of the DNR, including such measures as demolition summarily. I also wish to thank Senator Bato for coming with us yesterday to Kapatagan because it really needs to be established that this area is established as a settlement and barangay area by law. It's a township already long before the Inaypas Act. So we have to contend, of course, with that
So
particular
why did
reality.
we include that in the protected area? What's the reason? If it's really a town already?
But Madam Chair, it's only a portion of the large area of the Mount Apo.
Almost one half of the entire area.
If I may turn over to ASEC Mars Amaro
Yeah.
of Biodiversity, with your indulgence, Madam Chair, if I may be excused.
Okay,
That's
thank
fine.
you.
Thank you po.
Recognize ASEC Amaro.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Your Honor, and with the indulgence of the Secretary. If I got it right, the query is what to do with the settlements that are in the PA? Tama po ba?
Ang tanong ni Madam Chairman, bakit natin pinapa-declare na protected area na alam naman pala natin na marami ng tao na nakatira doon. Yung nga, para bang it defeats the purpose of declaring it as a protected area na hindi naman natin ma-protect dahil kalat ng tao doon. Matagal na nakatira ang mga tao doon. Parang yun ang tanong ni Madam Chair.
Siguro we will have to, thank you, Your Honor. Perhaps we should go back in time when these areas were subject to existing laws and regulations without the recognition of biodiversity conservation as a very important aspect in our day-to-day lives.
Hindi pa uso noon yung
Opo,
biodiversity,
conservation.
yung mga environmental protection. Hindi pa uso siguro. Ang uso noon is
Tao
paano
lang po.
mabuhay ang tao. Paano makapaggamit ng natural resources. Yan yung trend noon.
Yes, and thank you, Your Honor. Because of the recognition, which are not just within the national context but international at that, we are we are forced to comply with the requirement because biodiversity and with other global concerns are global in nature, and therefore we have to contribute to at least addressing them. So in the process, and the latest was in last year's 2022, where we are now required to provide for a bigger areas as target to be declared for protected areas in both terrestrial and marine. So that's the challenge because we're not starting with zero, virginate to
Are you
this area.
issuing ECC? Kung may hindi na sinunod, bakit dinagdagan nyo pa yung but why did you issue the ECC?
Ma'am, siguro on the part, Madam Chair, on the part of ECC, if these proposed activities are within the allowable, that we call, such as in the multiple use area, which is in the law, enshrined in the law. So we subject them to the environmental impact statement system. And since we cannot just disapprove because
Sa amin na lalagyan ng reclamation alam nyo mamamatay yung mga mangrove namin at babaha kami. But in-issue nyo rin yung ECC doon. Oh.
Ma'am,
Di, kasali kayo.
Ma'am, can we go to the process, ma'am?
Sabi na in-issue nyo yung ECC dahil kailangan. Hindi kailangan yun.
Ma'am.
Sana kayo, nahiwalay kayo sa kalokohan. Kung ang local government nag-issue ng PAMB because there are local government, kayo nagmatigas kasi kayo ang DNR. Bakit kayo nag-i-issue?
Ma'am, ganun nga po, ma'am. So, in the process, because these are allowed under other laws, and because of the reality on the ground, we subject them to the environmental impact statement system.
Pero Asek,
Yes,
kasi at the moment, ang dating sa aming lahat, on paper lang tong konsepto ng protection. Walang actual implementation. It's just parang on paper na declared siyang protected pero hindi talaga siya protected.
And siguro on a personal note, Madam Senator, I've been just over 1 year as BMB, concurrent director.
Naman yan reason, blue.
Ma'am,
Yun ang
hindi
tama
po on
sinasabi,
paper lang, ma'am.
pinalulusot nyo. Ako, I can understand, nag-issue ng PAMB kasi may mga local government doon. But yung ECC, purely DNR yan. Ba't kayo nag-issue ng ECC?
Ma'am, first reality check is through the PAMB.
Oh.
Ma'am,
Madam Chair, may I be acknowledged?
Senator Ligardo.
Thank you very much, Senator Villar, for conducting this hearing, and thank you to everyone present here today. Mula po sa simula ay nandito po ako nakikinig sa inyong lahat. Simple lang po ang katanungan at tama po ang aking mga kasamahan sa sinabi. Ginawa po natin yung batas para proteksyonan. Ayon sa ating batas, ang PAMB, ang Protected Area Management Bureau, na ang head po ng bawat PAMB ay yung Regional Executive Director ng DNR, siya po ang chairman. Sa ilalim po ng RED, nandyan po yung Regional Director ng MGB, Mines and Geosciences ng region, at sa ilalim din ng RED ay yung EMB ng region, Environment Management Bureau. Maliban syempre sa Central, sa Maynila. Ang mga miyembro ng PAMB ay samut-sari na nakasaad po sa batas. Ang mga PAMB po ang siyang nagtatalaga kung ang ating tinalaga na protected area ay magiging multiple use zone at strict protection. Sa aking pagkaalam ay dalawa, sinimplehan na lang nila, multiple use. So, ang multiple use po na ito, agrikultura, tama Senator Villar, okay yan. Hindi dapat may mga settlements o mga negosyo na sinisira yung aming konsepto na sabi ni Senator Binay sa protection nga ng protected area. Kaya nakaka-shock na, let's say, yung sinabi nyong dineklara na multiple use, mamaya tatalakayin, ng Bohol ay 97% multiple use. Ngayon, tinatalakay nyo ang Davao, ang Mount Apo, na ang dami rin mga seeming violations. So, wag pong pasa-pasa. 1 year pa lang po ako, bago pa po ako. Kasi madali po Tingnan lang yung petsa na tinayo, yung settlement, yung resort, kung ano man. At kung sino ang chair ng PAMB nun, ayun yung Regional Executive Director ng DNR na sigurado ako nandyan pa. At yung taong yun ay dapat kaya niyang sagutin. Maliban dyan, yung pag-issue nga ng ECC, maski sabihin yung multiple use yan, sa PAMB at chair dyan ang DNR na Regional Executive Director. Sabi mo nang nakalusot at maluwag ang PAMB, ay dapat yung pag-issue ng ECC ng EMB region ay hindi binibigay kung maluwag man ang pag-interpret ng chair ng PAMB na DNR Regional Executive Director. And I will ask more questions when it comes to Bohol. I will leave it to my colleagues itong sa Davao. Pero yung konsepto na pinag-uusapan po natin sa Davao ay applicable sa Siargao, applicable sa lahat ng protected areas, including and especially Bohol. So, Madam Chair, may I request the DNR to state who was the Regional Executive Director, Chair of PAMB, who issued the management plan and allowed the multiple use zones that all the settlements were granted during that time. And this question, aside from Davao, will also pertain to the Bohol protected area of the Chocolate Hills. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Give the names na lang. Tinanong niya na, give the names. Sino yung in charge nung bigyan niya?
The red of Region 7 may be able to provide the answer.
Hindi, ganito po, ang tanong ko po, Madam Chair, Davao pa po ang inyong pinag-uusapan. Kasi I see the frustration of my colleagues, pinapasa-pasa po kayo, ay, bago lang ako dito, ay, hindi pa ako noon, etc. So, from Davao, punta po tayo ng Bohol, yung sa Davao. Sabihin nila, sino ba yung red nung panahong yun? Ako, dediretsuhin ko na. Kaibigan ko na ng DNR, pero I want answers. Sa Bohol, sa aking pagsaliksik, ang red yata nung panahong yun ay ASEC ngayon, Gilbert Gonzales. I know Gilbert, so siguro, pag dating natin sa diskusyon ng Bohol, siya yung Regional Executive Director noon na nagbigay ng permit sa Chocolate Hills, dapat sagutin ng DNR, namely si former RED, ngayon naman ay ASEC na si Gilbert Gonzales. Tapos, alamin din natin, meron din nagbigay ng isa pang, let me see, yung sa Captain's Peak. Dalawa yung pumirma eh. Central Visayas Director at the time, Gilbert Gonzales. Correct me if I'm wrong. Another one is a DNR Central Visayas Director, Paquito Melicor. Ito yung July 14, 2022 na inendorso yung Captain Peak's report. Kasi pag ang tatanungin po natin, Madam Chair, yung nakaupo na sumasagot, Yusek, hindi ko po alam, sa next hearing, etc. Simple lang po, sagutin ng mga nakaupo nung panahong yun na nagbigay ng permit para matuon po natin. Ano ba yung problema ng batas o ng PAMB o ano ba ang gaps at kailangan merong managot. Hindi pwedeng puro hearing lang. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to hear from the DNR their answers to my very basic and simple queries. Thank you.
Hindi, ito yung PAMB is Gilbert Gonzales, ECC is for Mount Apo. Chocolate Hills is ang PAMB is Gilbert Gonzales, ang ECC is Melicor. Tapos doon sa sa Mount Apo, sino ang PAMB? Nag-issue ng PAMB? Ikaw rin, Gilbert? Sino ang ECC?
Wala pa ang ECC, ma'am.
Ikaw magsalita eh. Ikaw pala lahat eh.
Hindi ko po alam, sapagkat itong konstitusyon na ito kasi, ito kasing konstitusyon natin ngayon sa 1987. Ang sinasabi nito, merong balancing kapangyarihan. Ang legislative at ang executive. Ibig sabihin, pantay tayo ng kapangyarihan. Kapag ka iniimbita sana itong mga tiga-executive, sana po ay pagbibigyan nyo kami. Sapagkat hindi na kami dito mga marites o parites.
Hindi, hayaan mo siya magsalita. Let him speak. Do not stop him. Basta ka pa. See, sandali, hindi. I'm not talking to you, sir. Colonel po. You see? Sinabi niya, they were serving the warrant. They were serving the warrant, which means they have the warrant in possession. Because if you are serving the warrant, then you must have that paper. Yes, dapat. Kaya nga, di ba? Yes,
At itong bagay na ito ay hindi po ito isang bagay na isinasantabi. Sapagkat saligang batas po ito. Kaya po dito na naman pumapasok na kahit anong gusto kong gawin na pumantay diyan sa 1987 Constitution, sumasama ang loob ko. Kaya ang nangyayari, ipinipilit kong baguhin natin ito. Kasi kung ganito ang sistema, na para tayo nagmamakaawa dito sa executive, na para makasama lang natin, sana mag-parliamentary na lang tayo. Napakahirap yung ganito, susulatan lang nila tayo.
Sabi na walang waras, Chair, alis na lang ako rito. Hindi ko matiis. Nakikita ko na parang itong mga pulis pinagluloko. I'm sorry, I have to walk out. Hindi ko kaya to.
Interest namin, mambihira, oo. Akala ko, kalyado natin tong mga nasa executive. Kung kalyado namin talaga kayo, siputin nyo kami. Pambihira, oo. Napakahirap po ng sitwasyon natin. Gusto natin bumalanse, pero kung ganyan naman ang maaabutan namin dito, mag-parliamentary na ho tayo. Wala na ho akong pag-uusapan dito, kundi mag-parliamentary na tayo. Para harap-harapan tayo. Ang hirap ng ganito, taguan eh. Hindi ako sanay sa taguan.
Hindi ko lang matanggap-tanggap, for the record, na kayo ay pinagmumura dito. Ha? Ayaw na ayaw ko mumurahin yung taong naka-uniforme, mumurahin mo walang hiyain. Yan ang hindi ko matanggap-tanggap. Kung dapat kayo murahin, doon sa labas. Huwag dito sa hearing. Insulting action is for that kasama mo dito, mag-walk out, walk-outan ka.
Ang ating idolo, Senator Pimentel, Senator Bato, pagpasensyahan niyo po ako, maglalabas lang ako ng konting sama ng loob sa mga nagaganap sapagkat hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit hirap na hirap ang Senado na mag-imbita ng ibang sekretary. Marami po tayong inimbitahan. Nandiyan po ang sa DOE, inimbitahan din po natin ang kung meron silang maipapadala sa NEDA. Sulat. Nasaan yung sulat? Ito. Salamat po, ma'am. Hindi po maintulog ko, ha. Makakala nyo. Ito ang sulat ng isang secretary. We thank you, Senator, for the invitation. In as much as we have had no opportunity to consider and review the House and Senate resolutions in relation to the mandate of the Department of Energy, may we respectfully request that we may be allowed to submit written comments at a later date after due internal study. Ayun, mga kapatid kong senador, sulat lang ang katapat natin sa ating imbitasyon. Kaya po sana, akin din pong pinasasalamatan ng atin pong si Senator Tolentino, kasama din po natin siya. Senator Tolentino, mabuhay po.
Magandang umaga po, Mr. Chairman. Magandang umaga po.
Tutuloy ko lamang po yung aking medyo pagpasensyahan lang niyo ako mga kasama ko kasi talagang napakasensitibo. Unang-una, tingnan nyo, napakaganda ng itsura namin dito. Ako nasa majority, nandito ang aking hinahangaan, nasa minority. Napaka-interesado kami dito sa usapin na ito. Yung inaantay namin, Mambihira, oo. Sana magbigay po kayo ng interest dahil ang bill din na pag-uusapan po natin dito ay galing din kay Win Gatchalian, kay Senator Win Gatchalian na nasa majority din. Kaya ang akala ko, kaalyado natin tong mga nasa executive. Kung kaalyado namin talaga kayo, siputin nyo kami. Pambihira, oo. Napakahirap po ng sitwasyon natin. Gusto natin bumalanse. Pero kung ganyan naman ang maaabutan namin dito, mag-parliamentary na ho tayo. Wala na ho akong pag-uusapan dito, kundi mag-parliamentary na tayo. Para harap-harapan tayo. Ang hirap ng ganito, taguan eh. Hindi ako sanay sa taguan. Sir, gusto niyo pong magsalita para lumabig lang ng konti ang sitwasyon?
Maganda pa yung sinabi niyo, Mr. Chairman. Tsaka mabuti nandito rin si Senator De La Rosa kahit online. Na-witness namin kahapon yung yung init ng ulo ng isa pang chairman natin sa Agriculture Committee na halos hindi umusad yung hearing kasi sa galit na galit niya siya sa reports ng mga heads of the agencies to implement laws. So andun din si Senator Padilla kahapon eh. Alam ko katabi niya si Chairperson Villar eh. Which, yung ganung situation could really be, hindi ko sinasabing panacea, nasagot lahat ng problema, but improved by the parliamentary system being mentioned by our chairman. Kasi yung head of agency, head of the department, implementing the laws passed by the parliament or legislature belongs to the parliament in a parliamentary system. Therefore, una sa lahat, he could have been the nominee of the majority group in the parliament. Therefore, the head of the department or government agency shares in the wisdom, in the philosophy of the law and programs and activities authorized by Parliament. So yun na yun, you share it eh. That's why you get appointed to it. Therefore, your mission is to implement it. Yan po ang nakikita ko rin benefits ng parliamentary system. The merging or fusion of legislative and executive powers. May ganun, may nag-overlap po sila. So unlike now, nakikita natin, purely presidential tayo, appointed by the executive branch. It's as if, it's as if they're also a compartment na ito amin ha, dito kayo. So we create laws, they do not implement it, we are the failure. The legislature is the failure. Hindi kayo nararamdaman ng taong bayan. Ang ginagawa nyo, hindi namin nararamdaman. Totoo, kasi tayo naman, tuturo natin ng executive. Hindi nila kasi ini-implement eh. While in a parliamentary system, walang takas. It's the government of the day which is determined by the majority in parliament. So ang sabihin ng taong bayan, hindi namin nararamdaman ang programa ninyo because mali ang wisdom ninyo, mali ang priorities ninyo, or palpak kayong mga majority in the legislature, therefore we demand elections to change you. Ganun po yun. So, actually, I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. Wala akong problema sa parliamentary system. I think it's better for the Philippine culture then. Yung flexibility, we can make a mistake in an election and we can correct it. After 2 years down the road, 2 to 3 years down the road, we can correct it in a parliamentary system. Pwede nga 1 year down the road. So, ganun po yun. Yun po yung nakikita kong benefit po sa Republika ng Pilipinas if we adopt a parliamentary system. Ibang usapan naman yan sa federal, because federal is central national relationship with regional states. So, but parliamentarian is the fusion of or the sharing of powers between legislative and executive. At saka, ito na yung totoo na when you call the Congress as the representatives of the people, yun ang totoo sa parliamentary. Yun ang totoo. Kasi, di ba, even the executive branch is determined by the legislative will and the members of the legislature are representatives of the people. So, mas maganda pa yun, Mr. Chairman. So, I agree with you. Concentrate. We also concentrate on a proposal to adopt a parliamentary form of government. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Maraming salamat po, Senator Pimentel. Napakaganda po nung pagkakapaliwanag. Yan po ang ating bar top notcher. Napakasarap pakinggan. Maraming salamat po. Medyo humupa na po ang aming mga, hindi naman po yan galit, kundi hinaing. Hinaing po. At gusto lamang po naming mas mapaliwanagan ang ating mga kababayan na pantay lang po ang kapangyarihan ng legislative at ng executive. Wala pong mas mataas dito Tama po yung sinabi ni Senator Coco Pimentel at ni Senator Bato at ni Senator Tolentino na hindi po kami bata-bata ng sinuman. Hindi po kami tita ng sinuman dito. Kami po ay nagtatrabaho. At yung susundan ko lang po yung sinabi ni Senator Coco na alam niyo po, napakadami pong napakagandang batas. Lalong-lalo na po yan yung patungkol sa agrikultura. At kahapon, narinig ko po lahat yung napakagandang batas na yon na hindi po nai-implement. Hindi po nagagawa. Hindi po kasalanan yan ng mga senador o mga congressman. Kasalanan na po yan ng executive. Yung mga hindi po nakaka-perform. Bilyon-bilyon po pondo ng para sa mga magsasaka. Pero hindi po nagagawa. Hindi natin malaman kung anong problema ng mga tao dyan sa executive. Kung gusto nyo ng silipan, maghapon tayo magsilipan kung gusto ninyo. Tapos, sasabihin sa akin ng mga tao sa paligid, ganito gawin mo, gumanti ka. Kausapin mo yung mga nasa commission and appointments. Dating sa budget, harangin nyo, bigyan mo 0. Hindi naman natin pwedeng gawin yon kasi ang magtatamaan po dyan ay yung taong bayan. Kasi ang prioridad po natin palagi, tandaan po natin, ang taong bayan. Kasi po, kaya naman po tayo nang gagalaiti dito dahil itong Constitutional Amendment and Revision na committee na to, ang nakasalalay po dito, future ng Pilipinas, hindi po future namin ng mga senador o kung sino man. Ang pinag-uusapan po natin kung tayo ba ay magbabago o hindi. Kung mga ganitong sistema, payag na ba tayo dito o hindi. Yun lang po.
Sana sa committee na ito